Hello guys, welcome to this new video. Today we're gonna see the environment modeling process for my upcoming short film and trailer about Sly Cooper, and this is one of my favorite environment of all time from the second game from Sucker Punch. Let's just say that I really love so much the art direction of the entire game, the concept, the cutscenes, and the modeling, the texturing. I really love the aesthetic of these games, especially the second game. And today I'm gonna explain you briefly how I modeled the second environment. This video is gonna be divided in two parts here on YouTube, where I briefly narrate the steps during some parts of the process, while on Patreon we're gonna see a full in-depth video, the full modeling process. But I think that we can just start. Okay, so the first thing that I usually do when I need to model an environment like this, first of all, is finding good references. But the real challenge here for this model was that this was an environment concept that was made 20 years ago. The challenge was that I wanted to modernize it while still maintaining the original core and essence of this concept. It was hard to imagine how this environment would have been if it was made now. As I said before, I really like the concept and environment design that they made in this game, but seeing this model now for a kind of short film, you see that it lacks a little bit of detail and you need to add more to make it look more cinematic and complete. Of course, 20 years ago it was made this way in order for the PS2 to handle all of this geometry. So here, as you can see, I basically start with basic shapes. So even if the references that you have looks so much complicated, sometimes it may happen that you panic or you kind of get confused on where to start. And this is my trick. I usually divide the model, I divide the temple in big pieces. I like to think that this is like one of those Lego games where you have to build things pieces by pieces. And basically the logic of modeling is this: you divide every complex thing in big pieces with very low geometry. We don't add any kind of edges and verticals. We just keep it as simple as possible because we want to have the mobility and the freedom to still change and alterate verticals and the shape of the mesh. Because bear in mind that once you add more verticals and more edges to your mesh, changing the shape is gonna be a lot more difficult. So you try to do that at the very end of this modeling process. So as you can see, I just started with the cube shape for the walls and the sphere shapes. Most important thing here was imagine how this model will look in like top view and side view, since I only had this front pic that I found on the internet, which is probably AI generated. It wasn't really reliable, so I tried to mix it up more or less with my own taste and with the original Sly Cooper concept. You really have to visualize the references. If that can help, I sometimes trace some lines in order for me to divide each section and just focus on that sections. And this is an example of how I divided the references that I had, and especially if you're in your very first steps, this is really helpful, and I really suggest you to not overlook this step. Actually, the modeling process really relies on basic shapes, so I use so far the cube, the cylinder, and the sphere. So we don't have such complex geometry yet. Technique that I'm using is the mirror technique. So basically I just model one shape and then mirror it on the other side. This way I'm gonna save some time and I can see more progress in real time. So I have a full image in front of me that I can work on. I can see that if something maybe is too narrow or too large, and I can edit them freely. So here now I'm working on the bridge section, which was one of my favorite things to model in this environment. It really took a lot of time this section, because even the pool that you see below the bridge, I had some struggle in figuring out how larger it should be. So I always based this model on the original concept. So to me it felt a little bit weird to have this large pool. So I just maintained myself simple in some things that were exaggerated in a kind of stylized cartoon video game. So I still try to be truthful to the original concept, but I took the freedom to add other things in the meantime. Another thing that I already said in the character creation video, but I still say here because it happens all the time, is that every steps you take is gonna be changed 100%. Like if you place something here or scale something that way, it probably wouldn't be the same in the final result, and that's totally normal because at this point you're still trying to figure out the space of your meshes, you're still trying to understand how your geometry and your model looks, if everything is coherent or not. For example, I modeled this kind of little temple, the start of the bridge. This was actually really huge now, like you see, compared to the entrance of the temple, and I will fix the scale later, and that's totally normal. You always go back and forth throughout the stages, so prepare your mind to be elastic with this process. Just be patient because it's gonna take a lot of time. Even if this is still the low poly stage, I added more details on the roof of this little temple and on the columns, just had more variation in terms of, and not have just straight lines. And this was actually the funnest part to model. Just use the path shape method, which basically you model curved objects. This method is I actually use this method to model hair, for example, for my characters. This is also used to model curved objects. I really like modeling this structure. It's really interesting, and still at this point I was really doubtful about maintaining this shape, because to me it looked so cartoonish and I wasn't sure that I was gonna have it in the final version, but I just kept with it and I stick to the original concept. And I must say that by seeing the final result, I'm glad that I kept the structure, because I think that really sells out the concept. Here we are mostly at the finishing of the modeling process. More or less we have most of the things done, and I just use the Megascan mountains just to fill out the scene, and because it's pointless to model mountains if we have a free library to use. So for the mountains I just use the library from Megascan. In order to model the damaged dam, I actually used the self-fracture method. So basically I just generated cracked pieces on the mesh of the dam, and I just deleted the pieces that I didn't want it, and I just kept the ones that I needed, and this is the result. It's actually pretty good, it's not bad. And now I can finally start to add more geometry and to turn my low poly meshes into high poly meshes. I suggest to do this method actually after you make your UVs for your model, but I did it before. I don't know for what reason. It's preferred to do it like after you do the UVs, because it's just easier to cut the edges, and you don't have much edges to rely on, so it's kind of easy to make the cuts for your UV shells. But I think that I just didn't care, because I was planning to use the Unwrap, which is the feature of Blender to just make UVs automatically, which is actually the worst thing to do if you're UVing your model. But since this environment was really huge and there were lots of little meshes to that I model, making UVs myself for each model was too time consuming, and I was already tired of working on this environment. I think that they came actually pretty good, more or less. I mean, they're functional, they're useful, and so that's good to me. The UV shells are not straight as they should, because there are actually rules to make good UVs, but I am the type of person that if a thing is functional and you're alone in a project and you don't have much time, just do it. Even if it's not the perfect and correct way to make it. But sometimes, as you can see, the auto wrap was cutting my meshes in weird ways. So what I actually did was do a camera projection for the UVs. So basically Blender will project the UVs based on your camera view, and I just then cut myself the UV shells. And as you can see, for the railing, I actually use always the path method. I use the curve and the the array modifier, and I was able to just place my my railing automatically without getting like crazy. This was one of the worst thing to model. So the lianas that wrapped the horns, this was crazy to model because this is a speed up video and it still looks like so slow, but believe me, I didn't find any automatic way to just model this, so just model them myself with a lot of patience. This is like a part where I pose my character just to see how my character would interact with the environment, because sometimes you may go too far from the characters and there's a risk that they may look like two different universes. So it's really important to have it clear in mind your character concept and see how they would interact with the textures, with the lights. And so that's the reason why I pose my characters and I also place some lights. And I think that the result, without compositing, without fog, without color correction, it looks really, really good to me. Guys, this was my speed modeling process for the second environment of my upcoming short film. Bear in mind that I'm working on a trailer, so the trailer is gonna be first uploaded on Patreon and then it's gonna be uploaded 1 week later here on YouTube as well. You can support my project and my channel by joining my Patreon or even subscribing in my YouTube channel. This really helps a lot. I just want to make a shout out to all the voice actors from my team. They finished their work and they did a phenomenal job, so make sure to give some love to them as well. You find all of their links in the description below. See you in the next video. Bye.